I couldn't sleep last night, man. And
I couldn't sleep at all last night.
I'm pretty sure it was because this podcast was imminent. I was wide awake at 7 a.m. Welcome to Science Fiction and Fantasy Read Along. I am ATN.
This is Yule.
You are not Yule.
And this is Philip.
This is DM Phil. Sorry, I messed up.
He doesn't know who he is.
No.
And I'm Yule.
Yes, you are. If you're new to the podcast, I'd like to recommend that you go back and listen to the first 2 episodes before proceeding with this one. I think it'll make a lot more sense, and you might have a better time. In episodes 1 and 2, we were introduced to a vast cast of characters. We witnessed the inception of a plan for darkest vengeance. We watched one city burn and another one fall to siege, and we saw a conflagration of magic unlike anything in literature. Since we're discussing Chapter 1, now's a good time to make our solitary correction for the errata. I'm pretty sure that the muddy boots that Sari had were not due to her traveling through a warren, but more likely that she slopped through the battlefield of the slaughtered cavalry. You guys think that's more likely?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought at the time.
Yeah, it's funny that you didn't say anything.
Well, I moved on and I didn't want to correct you.
I don't really actually believe that you thought anything at the time. That's what I choose to believe.
I don't want to correct you because
I don't mind being corrected.
so
You should correct me. You should definitely correct me. I don't think that you thought that at the time.
I couldn't prove you wrong, and I didn't
You didn't even try. And that has never stopped you in the past. Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. There's no name to this chapter, is there? It's just Chapter 3?
I think that's all they are.
I think that's all they are also.
Yeah, it's called Chapter 3.
Oh, that's important.
I mean, there's obviously, the poem or whatever that precedes it.
Yes, which, is there any reason to mention it?
Well, only because it says Thelamin, Tartheno, and Toblakai, which are the types of giants, right?
Yeah.
And you caught that. I didn't even catch that the giant wizard Balurden was Thelomin or Telomin, however you want to say it. And I didn't catch that.
Yes, he's a giant.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
We'll talk about him in a little while. We'll get an idea of his actual size and what they mean by giant, or what Philip means by giant. All right, so let's begin. We're going to do this the same way as we did the previous episode, where we break the chapters down into sections or scenes, and we will build a foundational summary for each scene and then discuss the scene before moving on. On an imperial trireme sailing for the continent of Genebacus, Captain Perrin receives a visitor. So who's the visitor?
Topper.
Topper. He hasn't seen this guy in 2 years. And the first words out of his mouth are just vitriol.
And it's taken him over a week to find him, or 5 days or something like that.
No, let's go back to the first thing he says. Captain Perrin is sitting on this boat in the middle of the ocean, and he's been there for gosh knows how long, but then Topper just opens up this warren and just walks in, and instead of saying hello or seeming frightened, he's like, Jesus, is green the only color that you can wear?
It's the first thing he says is a criticism of this guy who is one of the Claw Masters. It's just ridiculous. And to be clear about Perrin, he is a captain in the Malazan army, but he's not the captain of this boat. I think that's just throwing that out.
All right, fair. He is a captain, not the captain.
Right. Exactly.
Just hilarious. It's antagonistic. It's disrespectful. It's
evidence. It's evidence for something that we're going to see in the very near future.
I think it's hilarious. I mean, Topper's the most dangerous person probably in the Malazan Empire, and
I don't know about that.
Individually, probably.
He's a Claw Master. He's a dangerous person.
Fair enough. He's very, very dangerous.
He's dangerous.
And Captain Perrin just kind of like poo-poos him and disrespects him, and it's hilarious. And he does it, to me, he does it with such class and poise. I love it.
He hasn't seen him in 2 years, and he can't even be polite. And Topper notices, obviously. So Topper has showed up on this ship in the middle of the ocean that's in motion. It's not sitting still or anything. And he says it took him a little while to find him, and that it's a feat of sorcery, which tells us that Topper is actually a competent mage. He's not a flash in the pan or an apprentice. He's good at what he does.
No, and then how did Perrin respond? He said, "Oh, makes you a good messenger then."
Yeah, again, rude. Just straight out rude.
I don't think it's rude. It's just almost it's a game for him to knock this egotistical claw down a notch.
I don't take him as egotistical, man. I never have. Like, I've never read anything in there that makes me think that the guy is egotistical. I mean, no more so than Perrin.
Well, I think Perrin is also creating the image of devil may care type attitude, even though he's not.
Well, to me, that's rude. If I met Perrin, I would think he was rude.
Oh, it's definitely rude, but it's rude with purpose.
Okay, well, we'll get to his purpose shortly. Did we learn anything from this engagement, though? Because I'm pretty sure we learned a couple of things.
Yeah, well, it's about what Perrin's mission is going forward.
What's his mission?
Well, so Topper comes back with the information that there is a girl under Whiskey Jack's that they're looking for.
Oh, so Sari is known to the Empress.
Yeah, that's what is going on.
They know she's the girl, and they know where she is approximately. They know who she's assigned to. They know all that stuff.
I know.
Yeah, and in fact, Topper says that Sari, or he says, your recruit is showing her powers.
Yeah, he never says her name.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your question?
So I have two questions now. We got slightly moved past it. Is first of all, how did they find out that she was with not just the Bridgeburners, but Whiskey Jack's squad? And two, how is she showing her power? What is this about?
I don't know that we know how she's showing her power yet. From the previous 2 chapters to now, hasn't that been 2 years?
Yes.
So we don't know what's happened in those 2 years. So we kind of just have to take it at face value. They know where she is. They found her. Lauren already was on her trail from the moment. And in 2 years, they figured it out. But I don't think we know. I don't think it's revealed to us how. But I don't think we can answer either one of your questions.
No, it doesn't say within the book either way. But I mean.
But you thought you had these questions while you were reading. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. How? I mean, their tracks were covered. They've been discreet. She generally keeps a low profile. I mean, how?
I don't know the answer to your question.
All right. And then how is she showing her power? We have not heard of her powers. What is going on?
Hold on, let me think. No. I mean, it's been, like I said, it's been a 2-year period of time where we've gotten no information. So,
I mean,
we don't know.
Fair enough. We don't know. There's a gap there that.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, one of the things they're saying is that she's corrupted the Bridgeburners. I'm not exactly sure what that means either, but that's kind of what they're going on. It's not necessarily a power.
No, it's not a power. I think what Topper suggests is that she has chosen her weapon, and her weapon is the Bridgeburners. Do we have any idea what she's planning to do with her weapon? Because we know who is in control here, really, right? It's vengeance. They want vengeance against Lacine directly. So, but I don't know how they're planning on using the Bridgeburners to exact that revenge at all. Although there's the suggestion that Dujek himself is going to go renegade. And that's something that Perrin can't believe.
And I think if you find at the bottom of the very first page that the recruit is in Whiskey Jack's squad, he goes through this mental process that sounds like despondent, despairing, even pained because he's not happy with the route he took in life, and he's upset that Whiskey Jack has to be involved. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Is this him remembering that Whiskey Jack gave him advice and he didn't follow it? Is that what you're talking about?
I think they're lumped together. He's despondent that Whiskey Jack, this pinnacle of manly achievement and honor and legend and all these other things, has been knocked down to nothing of a man. Well, no, I mean, that's what implied. He said you once commanded an army, right? Now he doesn't.
Yeah.
We know he's still great, but he's still been essentially knocked down to nothing within the command structure. But then he was despondent about that. I followed my dream, and now all I do is want it to end.
Well, his dream was the dream of an adolescent, and they're not notoriously wise. So,
well, maybe.
I mean, now he's dealing with the fallout of what he wanted.
The point is his emotional state is getting darker and deteriorating. That's kind of where I was going.
Okay, and I can agree with that completely, and I think that's part of why he's so rude to Topper. He's not a happy person. Happy people aren't mean or cruel or rude, right? They're polite, they're nice, they're friendly, and he is never any of those things to anybody. He's always kind of a jerk.
Well, Topper's not very nice to him also.
Topper has never done anything but share food with him and give him information.
And try and get it from him also. And
That's
kind of
not
put
rude.
him down.
That's not, I don't know, man. Like, if, telling somebody that they're ignorant is only an offense because the person that is ignorant takes it offensively, right? That's it. They are actually ignorant. He was ignorant. He didn't know. Topper was just calling it like he saw it, which Perrin loves to do, but he doesn't like it when it's turned on him.
Well, look at it this way. Perrin does not act that way towards anyone else, only Topper.
He's a claw.
Well, he does have animosity towards him from something that happened in Unto. That's his claim to fame or whatever.
Oh, like killing all of the nobility?
Well, he didn't kill his family, so what does he care?
Well, I think for all intents and purposes, Topper will come for him whenever he gets authority to do so. But in the interim, I would say that Perrin essentially has immunity from Topper.
He knows it.
Yeah, and he knows it. And he kind of throws it in his face, and I think that's a part of it.
Okay. Are you guys ready to move on?
Yeah, sure.
3,400 miles from Pale on the port of Genebaris, an agent makes contact. So Perrin's ship has come in. He's been he's debarked the ship and has been waiting on the pier for about an hour. And his contact has been there the whole time watching and not making contact because he wants to get a feel for this guy.
Yeah, and he doesn't think much about Perrin either.
No, he doesn't.
He thinks he's kind of dull-witted, and he's just kind of staring, looking at the pigeons or whatever.
Isn't this the guy that thinks that the whole show is being run by morons, though?
He does. Well, he says that, something must have happened to Lacine that she would take him or let him be as close to her as he is. Maybe it was something that happened on the last time she was attacked or something.
How do you feel about that? Because there's an implication there that I think is kind of outstanding. Assassination attempts on Lacine's life are commonplace.
Well, there's at least been one.
He's really blasé about the fact that she, attempts are made on her life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty amazing. So eventually he makes contact. This unnamed agent of the Claw. And mind you, we're really far in the north. This is not a direct line. Perrin is supposed to be going to the city of Pale. Those are his orders. Get to Pale. And he's being dumped off in Genebaris, which is it's 3,400 miles to the north on this continent. When they're introduced to each other, he's like, hey, you must be the guy. And he's like, let's just walk, man. You got to know where we're going, right? And he's pretty rude to this guy, too. So it's not just Topper. I don't think you're speechless.
I don't think he was being rude. I think he was just being confident. There's a difference.
No, he doesn't answer the guy's question. He doesn't say hello. None of that. Right?
He's all business.
He's rude, man. He's straight up rude to everybody. Nevertheless, during the walk or whatever, that's when the plan is. He's like, how am I supposed to get there? This is ridiculous. I've been dropped off so far in the north. And I'm expected to get down to Pale. How? And he's like, oh, I kind of like this guy. He speaks his mind. So this unnamed agent actually kind of takes a little bit of a liking to Perrin. They've kind of got the same attitude about what's going on. I think they both feel that they're out in the dark, kind of on their own. But the plan to get him down there, when it's finally explained to him, he's going to get down there fast.
He's going to fly.
He is. How's he going to fly, though?
So the Morant, the Greens, they do the courier stuff. So what they're going to do is they're going to get on a beast. What's it called?
A quarrel.
A quarrel, and they have like mosquito wings, but it's big, obviously. He's like, the way it's being described is the guy's like, you could poke your finger through them. They're like membranes. They're like really thin.
Yeah.
He's all, but I want to do it if you're like up in the air.
Right.
You're going to come down really fast. So that's what's going on as far as Perrin getting to where he's going to go faster.
Right. So they're going to fly him down there. So the plan, which he was in the dark about the plan, but the plan is actually smart. It's to deliver him. Why do you think they're doing that? Why do you think they're delivering him so far to the north and then flying him down? Like, wouldn't it make more sense to just ship him directly to the closest port?
I don't know. Maybe it's so he could pick up information along the way.
Do you think it's to avoid Sorry?
I don't see how. I don't get that either. It just seems like a very roundabout.
It does seem roundabout, but there's got to be a purpose to it.
I think the purpose was that he just comes in on a boat just like all the other recruits, which are probably supporting the 5th and 6th armies, right? Which are in the north.
They are in the north.
And then he just gets sidetracked and goes all the way to Pale.
Okay, I can buy that. So we get a little bit of a description of the Moranth here, and it's simply that they're half human barbarians, right?
And the different clans don't like to mix.
Okay, so there are a couple of things that I picked up from this section that I wanted to talk to you guys about. One is about the half human barbarian thing. We've met a half breed before, and his name is Topper. Topper is half Tistiandi, but we don't know what the other half is, right? And then we've got these Moranth who scholars believe they're half human barbarians, but nobody really knows, right? But the idea is there that they could have been interbreeding with another race. Like, it could be two different races interbreeding. But if it's anything like our genetics, then they have to be semi-closely related in order to do so, to create a crossbreed. So the Tistiandi have to be semi-closely related to whatever other race Topper is. And these Moranth have to be semi-closely related to humans if they are half-breeds.
Well, I think the claim that they're half-breed barbarians is speculative.
It is speculative, and they say that it's speculative, but that's half-human, right? It's half-human barbarians. So it would have to be a race that's closely related to humans.
Well, no other such race has been described.
Close to humans? I don't know. Maybe it's a Tistiandi. I mean, that's possible that, I think they can interbreed, but I'm not real sure. Nevertheless, I just wanted to put that bug in your ears so that we can think about it for the future.
No pun intended.
Right. Yes, insectoid people. The other thing was we get an idea that the Claw are not simply assassins from this section. That, in fact, they're much like spies. They are the agents by which Lacine controls information.
I think it's more important to point out that it is a network of individuals, and they are generally isolated or small groups, cells, if you were, and they have different skill sets. But primarily, I would label them as spies or spy networks.
Right.
And the assassin group is only...
They're probably all trained as assassins.
I don't think so.
They're trained for 15 years. I don't think they're just trained as spies.
Okay, I get your point. They're all Claw, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all Claw, but it's like everybody at the CIA isn't an assassin or isn't James Bond.
Right, sure. Perrin described them early on as a cult of assassins. And I think that's an oversimplification. And I think it's wrong. I don't think they're a cult.
I don't think they're a cult at all. I think
it's like the CIA.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's almost exactly like the CIA.
So I wanted to go backtrack to the thought that the Moranth were half human, and you got on that thought, but you stopped short. It said half human who smell like grasshoppers and dress like them, and I don't think that's just a figure of speech. I think they that's one tiny piece of evidence that says they are not human. They do not smell human.
Well, their armor is made of chitin, which is pulled off of some insectoid creature. That would be like a person wearing leather armor smelling like a cow.
Maybe.
Right? Or smelling like leather. Or new car smell.
All right. Take it. Well, fine. Take it or leave it.
I leave it. I don't think they're insectoid. But I don't know that we'll ever find out. That's just how I feel. Whatever. Their language is weird. Click languages exist on Earth. So it's not unheard of.
All right, no comment. Moving on.
It is all speculation at this point. Back in Pale, a giant in an alley with a dead sorceress in a sack. Tattersail has been asked to intervene. So we get an idea of just how big Bellerden is in this section. And it's not a joke. None of what I just said is a joke. He is in an alleyway, and he's got a dead sorceress whose name was Night Chill, is in a burlap sack, and she's been dead for a week or so, and she stinks.
And he hasn't showered since then either.
He hasn't cleaned himself up. He hasn't been healed, and he's in this alleyway, and it's bothering everybody. Actually, it's not just bothering people. They're getting sick because they go by him when they're on their patrols.
Wasn't clear to me whether they are like getting sick from some sort of disease or they're just like getting sick because it's disgusting.
Or is there like magic going on also? People get sick when when they do the magic also.
I don't know.
Only people that are sensitive do.
Oh, is that what it is? Also, the thing is that she's supposed to go meet Tatian.
Yule's talking about Tattersail.
Sorry, Tattersail.
She has been asked to go. She was stopped on her way to go see Tatian, and she gladly took the diversion so she could make Tatian wait.
Tattersail and Bellurden have this interaction, and she tries to help him because she's compassionate. She says, "Hey, let's get you healed up. Let's get you cleaned up," and he refuses and says, "No." He said the scars without are also the scars within. And I think it just says he means it takes time to heal and he doesn't need it. But then he's like, Tatian has given me leave to go bury my beloved. And she flips out. Do you guys know why?
Yeah, but she thinks it's because of Tatian that they're in the situation they're in.
She thinks Tatian is responsible for Nightshield's death. She thinks that Tatian caused Nightshield's death.
Well, she mentioned that, and then Bellurden said, "No, that's not true. He's always been our protector."
Tatian is our protector, and he always has been. Remember the very beginning? The Emperor was mad, but Tatian stood at his side. He shaped the Empire's dream and so opposed the Emperor's nightmare. We underestimated the Lord of... Oh, yeah, and then his rationalization is that Animandarake, we underestimated his power. And that's the reason why what happened. He's totally on Tatian's side as far as...
She tells him that Animandarake didn't have time to summon demons.
Right.
He didn't know he was going to be attacked that day. It's been 2 or 3 years or whatever, floating in the sky, and then all of a sudden he gets attacked one day. He didn't know. He wasn't prepared. And she says Tatian had the time. He was prepared. And she locks onto this idea, which I think is a little unclear, but there's some significance there. She sees Tatian as the thread. When Bellurden is explaining that Tatian is their protector, as Yule has mentioned, he's been there from the beginning. And this is what she locks onto. He has been there since the beginning. He is the common thread through the entirety of what's going on here. And so she's decided that this is significant in some way.
Actually, I have notes because I didn't get that. And I think you just explained it. Thank you. That he has been there from the Empire's very beginning. She sees something. I still don't get it other than that he's consistent from the beginning to the end.
It's coming. It's in a future section.
Oh, okay.
It's coming. But it's here where she makes the connection that he's been there all along. There's some other stuff here as well. Tatian has been there since the beginning. So has she, essentially. And I think she says that that Kellanved, the Emperor, his gift was to surround himself with powerful people. That was kind of his secret. But he was crazy. He didn't take precautions. He surrounded himself with a lot of vast power and ended up dying because he was kind of nuts. He did not take proper precautions. I like the suggestion, though, that the Emperor was crazy. He seems crazy, doesn't he?
I think so. He does. Going back to, you said Tatian was a thread. In the paragraph before that, Tattersail was thinking, and she says, the memory of Herlock's torn body returned to her. There was an echo there. And she was comparing him to Bellurden's ravaged face. And she says, but she couldn't quite catch it. I remember the beginning, she said softly, doing some searching of her own. The memories remained sharp, but whatever thread was there that connected it eluded her. And is that where in the next paragraph she said she figured it out?
Yes.
Those are connected.
Yes, because of the word thread. I think that's how we as the reader are supposed to make that connection. So how big is Bellurden? when she walks up on him, he's kneeling with his head bowed in an alleyway. So he's sitting on his
tall
haunches.
as her.
Yeah. And he's kneeling. He's sitting on his haunches, slunged forward. So I don't know what he'd be standing up, but I'm guessing probably close to 9 feet.
Well, I think there was at one point it did mention that when he did stand up, her head came up to his elbow. Is that right? And your elbow is just above the hips. So
that is tall.
Yeah, that's 9 feet, 10 feet.
This is a big guy. He's really big. So in D&D parlance, I have likened the Setuniman to ogres, or Irda, I guess, from Dragonlance, because obviously they're not just like savage idiots. And how I mean, what are we talking about? 800 pounds? You think that's reasonable?
Yeah, ogres are 800 pounds.
That is huge. That is a massive man.
Casting spells.
So, what do you think? Never mind. I'm not even going to ask. You know
no,
what?
Go ahead. What, you want to ask how big its is? Is that what you're going to say?
I'm just wondering how he and Nightchill had a relationship.
Well, I don't know how big she was.
She was just a human.
Oh, man. Well, he's not a horse.
Maybe he's like a gorilla with a really tiny penis.
Maybe. You know, when Karsa Orlong comes along, he has a relationship with a human as well. And I believe that it's described in a little more detail than it is here. Well, it's not described at all here, right? Nevertheless, we now know that the Setuniman, the Toblokai, what's the other one? The Tarthano? They're big. Yeah. They're not giants in the sense of 25 feet tall, but they're giants among men for sure. I want you guys to keep in mind that quote that Bellarden has where he says the scars without are the scars within, because I think it's going to become important soon.
Yeah.
And I think there's a thread, as it were, that runs through this entire section about healing and scars and
without a doubt,
and death.
And also, don't forget that Tattersail asked to cast a sealing spell on Nightchill's body.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if that has something else to do with the book later on, but just the fact that she wants to help take care of the body is a fairly nice gesture, I think.
It is, and Bellarden considers it briefly and then permits her to do so. It's not going to interrupt. Did you guys notice in the very beginning of this section, Bellarden says that he's going to go and build a cairn for Nightchill, but the time hasn't come yet. And then he asked Tattersail if she's going to do the same.
Right.
Who is he talking about?
Oh, he's talking about her lover.
Callet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you remember how she was kind of dismissive of the relationship? And she has this way of like not facing reality. And everybody around her was aware of how important Callet was to her, except for her.
Well, yeah, she's already put up her barriers and emotionally moved on. So she's not she seems nice and compassionate and fragile, but she puts up these barriers to really getting in deep so that she doesn't get hurt and emotionally devastated.
This girl's got some bad habits.
Yes, she does.
She does. She has some bad habits. I mean, I'm very sympathetic. I like her a lot, but she really would be difficult to love, I think. On a familiar hillside outside of Pale, a meeting of minds among the Bridgeburners. So there's this really awesome play on words that Stephen Erikson uses here to link the previous section to this section. And I think it's the first thing out of Quickben's mouth. He says, it smells bad.
That's Column.
That's Kalam. Okay. But nevertheless, he's not talking about Nightchill, right? But we were just in a place where we know there were some stinky body parts. And here's this guy saying it smells bad all the way to the throne. Yeah. And it's a nice, really nice way to link these sections together and let us know, I think, that everything that's happening in Pale is happening right now within a day. Like if we look at this whole chapter and the next chapter, everything going on in Pale happens really fast.
Yeah.
Really fast within one, like probably 24-hour period.
You mean starting now.
Starting with
Starting with Nightchill.
Starting with chapter 3. Everything in the next two chapters goes in one day.
Not starting with chapter 3, starting with the introduction of Tattersail.
Well, yes, but everything that happens in Pale in chapter 3 and 4 happens in one day.
Right. And Perrin's rushing to meet us there.
Yes, he's on his way, but he's taking more time, literally. Like his travel takes more time, and that's what.
Which is really nice because the chapter starts with it.
Yes.
And now we're supposed to kind of forget it for a little while.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all this is going on. Good stuff.
All right. So enough about wordplay. We've got this is an information dump, I think, is what we've got here. We've got Kalam telling us that the Bridgeburners are marked. I think Quick Ben is in agreement. They know Perrin is on his way, but they don't ever mention his name. And I don't think they really know who he is. They just know that he's coming and that he's a noble-born and probably doesn't know anything.
They know they've been marked, but they don't know the details of what's going on or why they're involved, and they're trying to figure it out, right?
Right. Whiskey Jack wants to know why they've been marked. He's not satisfied to know that he's been marked or his squad has been marked. That's not enough for him. He wants to know the why of it. And I think that has something to do with the fact that the Bridgeburners' MO in general is to be very smart and cagey and canny about how they do things because they're survivors. These guys have been on the front lines of a never-ending war, and they have all survived. Some of them have been demoted. Some of them are very, very secretive about what they really are, but they don't rush in, right? They're not angels or whatnot. What's the saying? Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. They want to know why, and they have sent Hairlock to find out who knows and who doesn't know.
They're discussing about how they are marked for death, maybe, from the Empress.
Yes.
We have them trying to figure out why.
Yes.
So the question is, or the answer is, everyone is still loyal to the Emperor's memory. And that's the reason why Lysine is looking to kill them all off. But then, of course, the thing is that they're dying off fairly easily on their own. There's no need for Lysine to have to do this.
Well, yeah, they're dying in battle. They're dying of old age. And I mean, Whiskey Jack asked the same question that we asked in the last episode. Why? Why now? What's changed that they're trying to kill them off? And we kind of concluded that it was the inclusion of Sari. And we now know for a fact that the Empress knows that Sari's with the Bridgeburners, right? So now It's starting to make sense.
So Lysine has the idea that Sari is somehow connected to somebody that wants to get rid of her.
Well, more than that, I think, Yule, is that they have identified the Bridgeburners as her weapon. Uh-huh. So they're killing off the Bridgeburners to eliminate the weapon just in case they can't eliminate the girl.
Right.
Disarm the weapon.
Disarm the girl?
Yeah, disarm Sari.
Yes. They're going at it both ways, right? They're trying to get rid of Sari by killing everybody, but they're also trying to kill the Bridgeburners because they think that's the weapon she's chosen. And it seems like that's correct.
There's some history that's given here also. Whiskey Jack lets Quick Ben and us know that there was a time when he was being chased by Whiskey Jack.
Quick Ben was being chased across the desert, yes.
Exactly. And I assume they captured him and he got brought in or killed. It was going to be one or the other.
Yeah, join or die.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. A little bit that we get also in this part of the chapter.
It is cool. There's a reason for him bringing that up.
Yeah, because Quickpen is trying to reference the past to make a point. And Whiskey Jack's, hey, if you want to go back there, let's just remember you were on the run.
Well, it wasn't just that he was on the run. He was the only survivor.
Right.
Like, of the people who fled across the desert being chased by Whiskey Jack, Quick Ben was the only one who lived. And he is trying to convince the Bridgeburners of going down a particular route. And he says, I know how you work, buddy. You make a deal with somebody nastier than your enemy, and you hope that you're quick enough to get away. Hence the name, right? Quick Ben.
Sure.
And he points out that it didn't work for his friends, that every one of his friends died, even though he survived. Yeah. And so he's basically saying, look, this may work for you, but it's going to get a lot of us killed. So your plan may not be the best plan.
Well, I don't think they have a plan.
They do have a plan, and Hairlock is the plan right now. Gather information.
yes, fine. That's not a plan.
It is a beginning of a plan. I agree with you. They don't really have a plan. They don't have enough information. They're in the information gathering stage
Yes.
of the planning phase of their plan.
Maybe they got 12% of a plan.
Something. Yeah. They have an inkling.
Well, here's what I don't get is Quickbin, they were talking about sorry, just moving forward a little bit in their discussions on the Hill. They were talking about sorry. Quickbin essentially said, it's like, I had never experienced pure evil in my entire life until I met her. And that's pretty distinctive about how he feels about her. So why is she still there? Why did they allow sorry to stay? And more importantly, why? And they just a few sentences past that, Whiskey Jack says, enough. I'm tired of talking about sorry. The matter is closed. Why does he keep defending her?
Okay, I have a theory about this. Yule, do you have anything to add?
It kind of gets brought up a little bit later when they have more conversation about sorry.
Okay, but from this standpoint right now, like, how do you feel about this? Because I had the same question that Philip's proffering right now.
It's hard to not bring too much of later into it. I think he just thinks she's a real person and that it's not, she's scary, but we all are scary.
Kalam is a cold-blooded killer. He's drawn a connection between those two. He said that you two are the same kind of person. And that would hurt my feelings if I was Kalam, but he's probably right. Okay, so they do decide to let Sari continue to operate. We'll get there. They let Sari operate because I think they don't have enough information. They don't know who she is for sure. They don't know what she's really doing for sure. They're not sure that she is their enemy.
I think you're right. I think on some level, Whiskey Jack knows that she's a capital piece in a very complex and dangerous and powerful game.
Yes, I think that's accurate. And I think capital piece, we'll come back to that when we start talking about the deck of dragons. But so they decide to let her operate. Yes. Now, one of the things that we also get in this section is we get a definition of roles explained to us for Quickbin and Kalam. Whiskey Jack tells us. Do you remember what he says about Quickbin, Yule?
Quickbin is the squad's brains, but Kalam is the killer.
And right now they have two killers.
They sure do.
However,
one that makes Kalam a little nervous.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he's smart. He's not a dummy. But be mindful, she is a recruit. She is not a bridge burner. So they don't take ownership of her. She doesn't have an official role among them because she's a recruit and they don't trust her. But what do you think? What do you think about Whiskey Jack? Explain to me, what is Whiskey Jack's role? And please don't tell me simply that he is their commanding officer, because we all know that.
Well, he was originally, a high fist?
Yeah, something like that.
So, he really commanded a ton of people.
Oh, a full army. What do you think he is to the Bridgeburners, though? Because we got a role definition for Quickbin and Kalam. What do you think Whiskey Jack is to the Bridgeburners?
I think he's kind of like a conscience.
Uh-huh.
That's what I would say.
Good. Yeah.
If he's willing to stick it out.
Yeah.
After being demoted the way he did.
Yes.
Then these guys who are so ragtag and as they're falling apart on top of it.
Yeah.
To see him still there is the kind of glue that a troop like these people would need.
Definitely. I agree.
Stick it out. And I don't know if that's conscience, but it's something like, the moral fiber of who they are.
Yeah. It's almost like the skeleton.
Yeah.
Right? That holds everything together.
Yeah. The scar tissue.
I think also in some way, I don't know about paternal, but I think title aside, he is their father figure.
Okay. So I'm going
to
ask.
There's Dujek also.
Or their leader.
There is Dujek, but let's get to Dujek shortly. So I asked Philip this question after the last time we got together for episode 1. Yule, do you think that Whiskey Jack got demoted on purpose?
I would assume so, yes.
You would assume that he did? He got demoted on purpose? Like
no. I mean, I see what you
chose to be demoted?
No, I don't believe he chose to be
You don't
demoted.
think so?
No.
I would agree. Maybe he did, because remember in the very first in the prologue, he said, "Try not to get noticed, son."
Yeah, I hear you.
That's why I asked the question, because we're reading this closely, and I'm wondering, I don't know. Like, it's a possibility. I wouldn't put it past him. Actually, he's a smart guy.
Well, not just that, but also the relationship he has with Dujek One Arm.
Yes.
And I think it is not beyond reason that they would collude and say, all right, Dujek, it's like, I cannot reach my potential if I am the High Fist. It's like, why don't you be High Fist? And then I will get demoted so that I can actually do what I'm best at.
One thing that we're definitely getting is we're getting the idea that Dujek is very well respected, right?
Oh, they love him, yeah.
They love him. They love this guy. Whiskey Jack loves him. Everybody loves this guy.
Yeah.
One of the ways Whiskey Jack is so effective is because he does things behind the curtain, in the shadows, undermining somebody else's power base. That is more difficult to do if you are the center of everybody's attention.
Definitely. And look at what they're doing right now. They've got a puppet marionette spying for them to gather the information so they can proceed with their plan. But they have a plan. Sort of. It's coming together.
One last thing. Part of the Morant that you were talking about, where they mentioned them as unhuman bastards, and there's a little bit more Morant information, because the Morant are marching by. It says the only force intact were the Morant, and they seem determined to field only the black regiments, using the green for lifts and drops. And then the question is, where in Hood's name were the gold he'd been hearing so much about?
Yeah, so they have an elite sect.
And then Whiskey Jack thinks they're damn those unhuman bastards anyway.
Right.
So there's that also.
Right. Which I think it supports your statement that he's the conscience of the Bridgeburners.
Yeah, he's not too happy with the way it went in Pale.
I wouldn't be either. The deal was gross. That they get to go and slaughter civilians for an hour? That's disgusting. It is. It's gross.
Well, before we go to the next section, the very last paragraph of this section, I didn't get it, so maybe you guys can help me out. It said, do you think the new captain's arrived? So they know.
Perrin's on his way.
They know that Perrin's on his way. And Whiskey Jack says, probably. Let's head down to them. And it's not really important. Oh, well, he says, we don't want anybody up on the wall watching us getting antsy. But then he said, they had indeed just turned the game. And I don't know what they mean, because it didn't seem like they accomplished anything. And then he says, and the timing couldn't have been worse. He knew the full extent of their next mission, and in that he knew more than either Quick, Ben, or Callum. And there was no point in complicating things even further, though. So how does Whiskey Jack know what his next mission is?
He's been told. Dujek told him what his orders are.
Okay, fair enough. But what does he mean? What does it mean?
I don't know.
When he says they had indeed just turned the game?
I do not know. I don't know. I wondered the same thing. I can speculate, but that's all I can do at this point.
Well, there's the part where he says, and sorry, and then Whiskey Jack says, leave her alone.
Yes.
For now. And I think they're having this discussion. I don't know exactly how they just turned the game. I have a problem with this also.
We all did, apparently.
But I've read this a bunch of times, and I've listened to it a bunch of times, and each time it is something that I don't quite get also. I think the discussion that they're having solidifies their position.
I agree with that.
And in doing so, I think that's what they're saying. Like, we aren't just people that are drifting along. We are now going to do something about it. Parallax doing his thing.
Sure.
We've decided to keep Starry alive.
They're committing to a course of action, and that's changing their stance, possibly, on how
I guess that's what it is.
Atop the walls of Pale, High Mage Tatian requests a reading from the Deck of Dragons. So, you just mentioned, Yule, that they were getting off that hill, the Bridgeburners were, because they didn't want anybody on top of the wall to get antsy.
Right.
And right away, we see the same trick. Erikson has written the same kind of trick, because right atop the wall, we've got Tatian noticing the Bridgeburners and getting antsy.
It's a segue.
And then right as Tattersail shows up, he's like, hey, weren't those the guys that you were hanging out with just after the battle?
Isn't that kind of creepy to you? Because he was taken off the battlefield on a stretcher. So that suggests two different things. Either he has preternatural sensory organs, or he has a network of spies himself that are giving him information constantly.
I'm sure there is somebody that could have let people know.
And he's getting antsy, and he's asking her for a reading.
Well, in some ways, it makes sense if we go by the assumption that Tatian's purpose in Pale was to eliminate the Bridgeburners to a man and to wipe out the other wizards. He would want, and then you only have like a few people surviving on that vast field. The Bridgeburners crawl out, and what do? They don't go to the command tent. They go immediately to this hill, that would strike as an odd event. Somebody might take notice of that, right?
I mean, yeah.
My point is that's something that could easily stick out and get reported back to him. He would ask the question, did any Bridgeburners get out? And they'd be like, yeah. I'm like, well, who and where did they go? And
yeah.
I don't think it's a stretch to that he could have.
No, it's not a stretch. But I mean, which one is it though? You know, if he has his own spy network, that suggests something else entirely. That, well, you know what? Let's come back to that. All right. So can either of you explain to me what Tattersail and Tatian are talking about when they're referring to the argument that they had?
Oh, I remember that. That's when they just met right before the battle.
They had an argument before the battle? No, I don't remember that.
Wait, where does it talk about
They're having this conversation, and he's like, lady, take my word for it. I am the agent of the Empress. Be glad that I did not tell her what you told me. And if you take this up with her, she's not going to be happy with you. I took this as sarcasm, and you should be glad for that.
I don't know. I guess it's something that we just didn't get to witness.
What could she possibly want to take to the Empress other than her suspicions about Tatian? And why would she bring her suspicions about Tatian to Tatian?
Maybe he meant briefing instead of debriefing. That might just be an error. But I know, because remember when they were talking about, let's attack the floating city now.
I mean, it could have, if it was a debriefing, it could have been something as simple as your commands are ridiculous, and I'm going to the Empress for something like that. Or she could have said, hey, your stuff, got almost everybody killed. Maybe that's what it was. Or maybe it's a typo.
I don't think it's a typo. Anyway, so I guess you guys are unclear about it as well as I am.
I didn't get hung up on it like you did.
I get hung up on everything, you all.
Oh, you do? Okay.
All right, let's talk about this reading. A reading from the Deck of Dragons, right?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, the reading is for Tatian, and it is performed by Tattersail, and she does the entire thing from beginning to end with her eyes closed.
She says, shall we begin? And he says, tell me of the spinning coin.
Oh, isn't that creepy?
But that's all he says about it. I mean,
he can hear it. He can obviously hear it. All right, so let's go through this. So we mentioned already that before it even begins, she feels something open up and like powers flooding through her. She closes her eyes and she begins. First card. The first card is Orb. She lays it to her right. The orb signifies judgment and true sight. The second card she lays to her left. It is the Virgin, High House Death. The third card she lays between them in the center, and this is the Assassin, House Shadow. The fourth card is Opon. She lays that out in front of her, beyond the other cards, between her and Tatian. And this is the Lady High, which indicates success. And Tattersail says that this is blocking Tatian. This is why he can't get any further. And then the fifth card is laid down, touching upon, and it is Crown, wisdom and justice, because it's upright, and it is an image of Darujastan's walls surrounding the crown. And she identifies it as Darujastan because of the gas lamps on the walls that are blue and green. So what I was just showing Philip was an actual layout of the cards as they are, and kind of the interpretation that Tattersail is giving us as she's doing the reading. The orb is judgment and true sight. And the Virgin on the left is separated from the orb by the assassin. On page 94, she says that this reading is bothering upon, this connection between them is bothering upon, that Shadow is a rule-breaking house, and they don't like it. Okay, so that's kind of how the cards are laid out. That's the reading. That's what she's got. How do you feel she interpreted that whole mess?
I think she gets some of it, and a little bit later she gets it all. As it's unfolding around her, she's like, oh, this is that part of the reading. This is that part of the reading. But she knows about the girl, and I think she's already connecting her to the Virgin.
Sorry.
Yes.
Well, let's look at it from a slightly different way. So based on the other things they see in those paragraphs, it's very clear that Opan is the one leading that card reading, pulling the cards, essentially.
Yeah. Yes. Opan is the master of the game.
Well, not just the master of the game. Opan isn't just allowing it to happen. He's specifically telling her.
He?
Well, the point is, Tattersail was well aware that an ascendant was working through her. No, I think she did put together that it was Opan.
I think it makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you, but I think that that's not a surprise to her.
No, and I think you need to take credit for it. I think it's exactly what you said and how you said it. It's like first card, second card, third card. She is seeing true that the girl, is what?
Shadow Throne.
Yeah, is Shadow Throne.
So is the twin sister Opan working through Tattersail? Is that what's going on?
She's probably the source of power behind the reading.
And it's happened before with another reading.
I don't think it's a surprise. I mean, she is... They, Opan, the deity twins, they are the masters of the deck. That is their deck. They run the game of life. It's theirs.
Oh, so you think, I wouldn't say all card decks because there's two different types, but you think that essentially the deck is their medium by which they communicate to mortals?
I think so, yeah.
It can't be just them. Other deities can too, right?
I don't know, man. I think that the deck is theirs. I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's theirs exclusively, but...
I think any ascendant theoretically could be there. Essentially, what is the power behind the deck, and why can she read it and other wizards cannot? Where does that power come from to read the deck and read the future? I don't think it's just Opan. I think Opan just happens to step in right now and be the person guiding that deck.
We will leave this one for now because I don't know that we'll get anywhere by taking it further. I think what the reading is saying is what Philip mentioned. The orb, true sight, is suggesting that the Virgin of High House Death is the assassin from House Shadow, who is the rope, who is Shadow Throne.
And this whole reading is being done on a table that is described at the beginning of this passage as a surface scarred and pitted and crowded with runes cut deep into the oak. Peculiar dark stains blot the surface here and there. And I think this is going to play a role later on. I don't think in this book, but we'll just mark it right here.
So is this Tashrin's table?
I think that's what it is.
I think so too. I don't think this is Tattersail's. I think it's Tashrin.
Well, a lot of like Tattersail's room is something that she's taken over in the city as it was basically wiped out, and stuff like that.
Well, she has her own possessions though.
There are some, but
but a table?
A table. It's I think it's important, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think it is in this context. I don't think it's just artsy. I think the table itself can magnify the power and the reading of the cards, maybe.
Yeah, I assume so, yes.
It gets a plus.
For some reason, we find out that Opan is bothered by this connection between the Virgin of High House Death and the assassin from House Shadow. Do you guys have any inkling of why that would be?
Because of later, yes.
Well, I mean, right now, think about it. Right now, do you have any idea why they would be upset about this connection between them? I mean, just look at what we know right now in the reading carefully. We've got the Virgin of High House Death is controlled directly by the assassin from House Shadow. Like, you guys see a conflict of interest there? Those are two different houses.
Well,
They're not supposed to be linked. There's something going on. Shadow Throne is manipulating events. They are using the version of High House Death as a tool, and that's not supposed to happen.
Right.
I get what you're saying. I didn't quite pick up on that, but you're right. They're two houses, House Death and House Shadow.
And House Shadow is known to break the rules, and Opon does not like this. So Opon is blocking Tatian for some reason, would not give him this reading, but would give it to Tattersail, even though she's giving the information straight to Tatian. So I'm not sure what the significance of that is.
Well, I think I know the significance.
Oh, please do tell.
Well, because Opon knows that Tattersail is already becoming involved in Whiskey Jack's group. She's very close to Sari. She's met Sari. She's interacted with Sari, and she'll see Sari again, right?
Mm-hmm.
My point is, maybe Opon... Tatian is being sidelined, right? But Tattersail is being pulled into the game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is essentially what that means.
I have a suspicion that Tatian is trying to manipulate the game also. Remember when Tattersail said that he was the thread that went all the way through and that he was guiding the dream of the Emperor?
I remember that, yes.
I'm wondering if she thinks that he's manipulating the game, trying to.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that too. All right, do you guys have anything else for this section? I know it was a little bit confusing, and I apologize for that, but it is kind of a confusing section that requires pretty seriously deep reading.
It often is, yes.
Perrin is escorted into Pale by Talk the Younger. So he got dropped off outside the city, somewhere on a hill by the Green Moranth with their quarrels. We get a little bit of an idea that there's some rumors swirling around, that Perrin's picking up information, but he feels kind of like out of the loop because he's so far from the information that he's getting, and it's coming to him so late. And he has heard from the rumor mill that 5 wizards died in this conflagration that was Pale. But we also know that there were only 4 wizards that died. So we know that the rumor mill is wrong. So not all the information that we're getting or given is correct.
You are incorrect. Oh, wait. Nope, sorry. I apologize. You're right. 4 dead mages confirmed.
That's how many I counted.
Hold on. Nightchill, Cowlet, Harlock, that's 3.
And the fire wizard
The fire wizard, Acheronus.
Acheronus, that's 4.
Yep.
Who's 5?
There isn't a 5. So Yule, you had told me that there was something interesting going on in the prologue that was referenced here, having to do with Hood and Dassam.
Yeah, there's some history in this one. Without
There
a doubt.
is,
There's also
yeah.
a little bit more Moranth information also.
Let's go ahead and call this one what it is. This one is an information dump. This one's
This is
truly
a big one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a true information dump.
So the history says that back in the days when Dassam Ulter ran the military, he made a deal with Hood.
Who is Hood?
Hood is the god of death, I guess, is basically it. Right?
Yeah, I suspect he's the head of House Death, right? He's
They always say Hood's...
No.
No?
No, Hood is head of House Shadow.
Wrong.
Wait.
Wrong.
The rope is head of
Shadow
House
Throne.
Death.
No. Also wrong.
Do I get that all wrong?
All
The
back.
rope is the patron saint of assassins? Is that what they
Correct.
call him? Okay.
Yes.
So every time they're always, instead of say us, where we say go to hell,
Yeah, they
they'll say Hood take you.
or yeah,
something like that.
Hood's Gate.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
yeah. I blew that, sorry.
It's all right.
We noticed, buddy. It's okay. It's okay.
So back when Dassam Ulter was running things, he made a deal with Hood,
The God of Death.
the god of death, who took Ulter's daughter. And not long after that, when Ulter died, all his men were pulled down fast. for that.
So we got some information in the prologue that we found out there that Dassam had made a deal with a deity
Right.
and that his daughter had died and that he had sworn vengeance on Hood for it. And then he was murdered, but this is where we find out that he had taken on the role of Knight of Death. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Which is a card in the deck of dragons.
Huh.
So what we're finding out here actually is that mortals or deities can be the face cards on these cards. Dassam was briefly the Knight of Death, but he was not pleased when Hood took his daughter. So he swore vengeance on a god and was quickly murdered. Seems like that's guaranteed to happen, but whatever. So we find out some information other than that also from Talk the Younger, who, what did he say? He said there's no claw left anywhere near the front, that the Tisti can spot them from a mile away. And they've just been how the claw were sent into Pale to clean out the wizards? Well, the Tisti were doing the exact same thing to the claw.
Huh.
They just sent their guys in and just wiped out all the claw. So there are none left. Okay, so Talk the Younger tells us about all of the claw being wiped out. He says that his claw master was garroted 2 days ago. That's on page 89 at the bottom if you guys need to find it.
Yeah.
And,
No, I'm on it.
And Talk affirms for...
You were wrong. It was page 96. His claw master was garroted 2 days ago.
You're right. You're fine. Go look at page 89 though. Go ahead.
No, I know exactly what it says. It talked about the officer.
Yes. Let's talk about this. This is hilarious. This is one of those moments in the book that I just love.
I love it. I didn't want to mention it, but yeah, I thought it was hilarious. So the Bridgeburners had just gotten buried alive, 1,300 dead, and then Tatian sends this junior officer to do this inspirational keep your chin up speech. And then 2 hours later, somebody garroted him.
And the information is essentially linking those two sections together. So this guy that went to go and talk to the Bridgeburners at the end was a clawmaster. He was Talk's clawmaster, and he got garroted.
Oh, I didn't get that.
That's how he links stuff together. I'm very impressed by Erikson's skill, because it's not immediately apparent, but like the word thread, it's like that's how he does it. He uses the same word. He's very careful. He said garroted, right? And then that happened 2 days ago. And then here it is again. His commanding officer was garroted 2 days ago. So
let's go back to the one that was garroted within 2 hours of giving that little keep your chin up speech. So Callum and Quickbin and Whiskey Jack are talking about it, and they're saying, who could do that? It's like your work, Callum. I mean, that's an expert. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't me. And he's like, well, then who? He's like, the claw? And they're like, maybe. And they were implying sorry.
But
they did not say it, but they implied. But why would Sari do that? See, I didn't get that. I was like, well, why would Sari bother? Why would she go out of her way to kill this officer who had just snubbed the Bridgeburners? Because generally she does not care about the Bridgeburners.
No,
right?
No. This is not her MO.
Right? And it's not her MO either. But it could be if it's Claw, right?
It could be, but is garroting somebody her MO?
No, she's a stabber.
We don't know yet, technically, right? We don't find out until the end of this chapter.
So you think the Tisti are inside the city killing the Claw?
Yes, I do.
Holy smokes, and nobody knows they're there.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I believe it. That's
a very interesting moment, though. Very interesting moment. So this is just information that Talk is passing on. Talk is now alone. He is the only Claw left anywhere around this part, right? Because Perrin's like, oh, I guess they sent you to come and get me, because of whatever. And he's like, no, I'm the only one left. Like, my commanding officer just got killed. So here we are. And let's describe Talk. Yes?
Yeah.
I love Talk. I love this man. Like, oh, God, he's so good. Yule, describe Talk to me.
Yeah, he's messed up. He has one eye missing, and his face is all burnt up, I think, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
He's really nice, though.
He's disfigured, but yeah, he speaks straight and clear. He talks to Perrin like Perrin is a human being, and I think Perrin likes this guy immediately. And he's not rude to Talk, if y'all notice.
No, he's not.
Well, and I think that's part of it. Perrin's disrespect is the fact that he doesn't respect you. Does that make any sense?
It does, and there's like direct evidence for that at the end of the chapter.
And I think it's arrogance, not rudeness, that kind of drives his actions a little bit.
Well,
but also I think it's the evolution of his character that hates life. And I think you mentioned that.
Yes.
And
it's supporting evidence.
Yes. And here, right after it talks about meeting up with Talk, right after it talks about his description. No, yeah, right before it talks about his description, Perrin was saying that he was talking about the claw. He said, dealing with the claw always grated. They were so damn smug. With the exception of that man in Jennabaris, none seemed to like him at all. It had been a long time since he'd known someone he could call a friend. Over 2 years, in fact. So he's essentially socially isolated with no one to interact with. And you know what they say, the only thing worse than being alone is being alone in a crowd.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think, and he's young. He doesn't.
Yeah, he is very young.
I think that's really grated on him not to have anybody to interact with, to partner with, to unload with, to share life's suck with, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, but you notice he seemed to get along well with the guy in Jennabaris, the unnamed guy that let him sit on the pier for an hour and just watched him.
Yes, who he was Claw, but he was actually just a normal, practical guy. He was on the side of.
Yep, those guys got along. I think because they're the same person essentially, right? They have similar outlooks and etc.
Might be.
Nevertheless, he liked that guy liked him, and now here he is with Talk, and I think he's starting to identify the fact, of like why he's unhappy. Okay, so when Topper was first speaking with Perrin on the boat, telling him that Dujek's gonna go renegade, etc., and Perrin's like, no way, that's not gonna happen. But Talk tells Perrin that Dujek's soldiers are loyal, capital L, capital all caps, loyal. And so that maybe Topper's not wrong. Maybe Dujek could go renegade, and maybe that really is a threat.
Talk said something that Perrin already knew. Talk said, you have to remember that it's been damn near forgotten back in Malaz. Whiskey Jack once commanded his own company. And Perrin's head snapped around because he was thinking, he's like, that fact had been thoroughly stripped from the annals. As far as Empire history was concerned, it had never happened. So they've already buried Whiskey Jack. To erase it from the annals is something completely different than demotion.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Why go through that level of effort? But out here on the front, right, people remember. Old soldiers remember. Old soldiers talk.
Yeah.
And when Whiskey Jack walks down the street, they're like, that's the man that did X, when you're telling stories around the campfire.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Philip, striking yourself or getting struck from the annals would go to not being noticed by people.
Exactly. Do you think he asked to be struck from the annals? No.
Or he just had a person that knew how to garrote it out.
So the question's still there, right? We didn't get confirmation one way or another, but it does supply some more evidence that it's possible he did it on purpose.
Well, I think, but it's just curious. Why strike it from the annals?
I do not know.
Well, if it was a demotion that he didn't appreciate, then getting struck from the annals would be a further slight, if that mattered.
Well, but if you're trying to destroy somebody's character or persona or image, then you make it very publicly known that he was demolished in disgrace, right?
Yeah.
That's how you destroy the man.
The Romans did this kind of stuff, though. If they wanted to, I don't remember what the name of the punishment is, but it was an act of striking somebody from written records. It was a punishment of
to lose, someone can still respect you. To win, someone can respect you or hate you, but someone will have an opinion on you either way.
But
if
not to exist.
From it, to not exist, to be forgotten.
Yeah.
To not care.
Right.
These are the things that kill a person's memory.
Right. All right. So there's a little bit more information that we're given by Talk. And let's see, what else is he given?
Yeah, he's basically filling in to Perrin the situation. Tatian's in charge. The troops are loyal to Dujek. You're in over your head, but if you need something, call me.
Yeah.
And then he finally lets him know his name.
Talk the younger. Yeah, that's once they're in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but doesn't he tell Perrin that the Bridgeburners' new orders are crazy? He suggests that the orders are absolutely nuts, that nobody would think that was a good idea, what they're being sent to go and do.
Well, yeah, he says they're a little hot these days for getting the chaff of recruits. Makes it look like they're about to get disbanded and so on and so forth like that also.
Right.
But I think they said, well, that's ridiculous. You try to disband the Bridgeburners, you'll have a mutiny on your hands.
Right. So they don't disband them. They send them on to worse and worse assignments until they're all dead.
Yes.
That seems to be what's going on here. But we still don't know what those orders are. Talk doesn't tell us, and Perrin doesn't know, apparently. So, or if he does, he's not letting in on it. But there's something interesting about Tatian in here as well. And it got me thinking, this is the section that got me thinking that there's somebody out there who is aware of what Tatian is doing, and they might be suspicious that he's making a move, cleaning house, as it were, carving out a niche for himself, I believe is the way that it's phrased in the book. Is Tatian killing off all of these mages because he's cleaning out rivals?
No, I had a theory on that. And I think...
All right, so Philip does not think that Tatian's carving out a niche for himself, but Tattersail does, and Perrin or Talk do as well. The suggestion is there, and it's not mine. If the motivation behind it, Philip could very well be right as far as that goes, that something is called, well, whatever. We don't know that yet, so we're not going to talk about it anymore. Perrin meets Picker in the barracks.
Sorry, that's a funny scene.
It is a funny scene.
I really like this.
But what's
scene.
I
this
know
would
you
be
do.
the one I would lead if I was going to have made the program of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This would have been one of the scenes I would have led with.
Where Perrin meets Picker?
Yeah, he busts in and Picker's lying down, doesn't salute, is like, barely acknowledges Perrin, and Perrin's like asking questions. And he's like, where's what does he want? He wants to meet Whiskey Jack or Dude Jack? I can't remember.
Whiskey Jack.
Whiskey Jack. He's like, where's Whiskey Jack? And Picker's like, and Picker's a woman, by the way. And she says, oh, he's out gambling at the bar.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, what's he doing gambling with his recruits? And she's all, no. He's not captain or anything like that. He's, and it's a good scene. I like it a lot.
I know. Yeah. From the beginning, it's hilarious how she just pretty much has no respect for her authority, for his authority.
Yeah. She says that you're the noble-born that hasn't drawn a sword yet.
Oh yeah. She calls him out straight away.
Yeah.
And he's like, Corporal, is it? As he's talking to Picker. And she's like, yeah, what? But she didn't even move. She's like laying down on this. It sounds like a cot with no mattress on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, what? I take it the chain of command has thoroughly disintegrated around here. And she's like, probably. He's like, I'm looking for the 9th Squad, Corporal. Why? Are they in trouble again? Are you the average Bridgeburner, Corporal? No, all the average ones are dead. It's hilarious.
It is. It's a very funny scene. What do you think the purpose is behind the scene?
That is a good point. Besides comedy, which I don't think is the point, I think it is that these are rock solid, hard veterans, and he's a nobody. I think that's the point.
I think a lot of this chapter, and 18 and I talked about this before the show, is about how Perrin is perceived by all the other people, and a lot of Perrin's perceptions of how other people are also. So a lot of this third chapter is just us getting to know these people, getting us to know a little bit of history, and really get a firm idea of how people perceive Perrin, who's being put in this situation, almost like he's being put in every situation he really doesn't belong in, or he's like the outside piece that's getting put in to all these little machinations. And I think it's important that we set this thing up because there's a little bit of mystery that's playing out. I mean, it's not the biggest, the most major of mysteries that's going on, but as things unfold, it's because of the way Perrin is and who he is.
Well, I think it also sort of emphasizes, and I think you're right about the thread about how other people view him, and he's got a lot of introspection moments in here. But I think another part of it is if you think about putting Perrin into this position as a captain, into these rock solid veterans where the normal chain of command doesn't matter because death comes quick and you have no experience. My point is, it's like the people in Mala City making the decision to send him here is ludicrous. All right. It's a ridiculous attempt to insert somebody who does not belong here, and it's never going to work. And the fact that people in Mala City think it'll work is beyond ridiculous.
Like they think they're being subtle, but it's very obvious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds unprofessional and unbelievable from a standpoint. And they had gone through the thing. Oh, we want you to do all these assignments to make it look like you're credible as an officer. But it's still kind of a joke. He's young. He's never done anything, and they can just smell it on him.
They can't just smell it on him. They can see it on him. He's literally got a brand new uniform. Brand new, right? It's clean, squeaky clean. Mm-hmm. He doesn't fit in. He does not fit in.
Yeah.
He stands out like a sore thumb kind of deal. So let's call this section precedent. Yule's correct, I think, exactly in the sense that the Bridgeburners look upon this guy in a particular way, and this is a very comedic way of showing it, but this is kind of just how they're going to see him and look at him, right?
And as Philip said earlier, Ansi, who busts in later on during this scene, also says, because Perrin's left, he's going to go find Whiskey Jack, and Picker says, I give him, 2 days? 2 days before he's killed. And Ansi says, something tells me that'd be a damn shame.
That's the second person in 2 sections that have expressed that sentiment.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the thing is like, even though he acts a certain way and once, so when he was waiting for that one claw to take him from having been dropped off by the ship to get picked up, not one person salutes him during that time.
Yeah.
And he doesn't salute anybody back or anything, it's just like, and it's like no one's giving him really the proper respect. He's not really giving anybody their proper respect, but certain things come out in conversation that's like, oh man, this guy is kind of likable.
Well,
and
he's not rude to these people at all.
Right.
He's extremely professional when it comes to the Bridgeburners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is, like, to a T. He's not rude like he is to the Claw.
Right.
That's true. And Picker tells him to go back to the Empress and lick her boots clean. And
he's like, they're clean enough already.
Which is a perfect response to something like that. You can't, what's he going to do? He can't go and he can't carry a baseball bat into a situation like that, right? He knows he doesn't have the authority, really. He does, but they don't care. He can't do anything to them. It's a good response. It's a very good response. Her boots are clean enough.
I'm sorry. Yule's right. This is like this iconic scene I seriously wish I could see in a movie.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
So good. So well. The imagery and the dialogue are just perfect.
It's true. All right. So let's move on to the next section, which is the last section in this chapter. And we're just going to say that this one is about the killing of a captain.
Oh.
All right, so straight away, Perrin has gone to where Picker told him Whiskey Jack would be, playing cards. So he's in a bar, crowded bar. By the time he gets to the table where they're playing cards, Whiskey Jack's gone and his uniform is soiled, right? And he's like, well, at least I'll look like it's been used. Yeah, so I might fit in a little bit better. But straight away, Perrin realizes that from his interaction with these people playing cards that he is completely insignificant to them. He doesn't matter at all. They don't need him. They don't want him. He means nothing to them.
Yeah, nobody stops the game. Nobody salutes. Nobody cares.
Nope.
I mean, they talk to him, but they don't.
They don't kowtow to him. They don't treat him as special. And he realizes that he's been very arrogant. He's been taught from birth that he's special, and he isn't. And these people are pointing that out to him indirectly, not on purpose. They're just treating him like another person. And he had this kind of expectation that he would be taken seriously, that he's an officer. And all this guise and like this expectation is starting to disintegrate right here.
But he does make a very, very critical point. He does have an interaction with these guys. And he does say, let me see. Perrin says, most officers are terrified of the Bridgeburners. Word is the mortality rate's so high because half the captains end up with a dagger in their back. And he has a point here to make, and he does it, and I think he does it very well. He says, but I'll tell you something, all of you. If I die with a knife in the back, it better be because I earned it.
And then he says, because otherwise I'll be really pissed off.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be dead and pissed off. But I like that because, that shows a little comedy. He's letting them know straight up that, hey. And then when he says that remark about being stabbed in the back, everybody stops for a moment.
Well,
and that's when he adds that extra bit,
They even
levity.
don't know. Among the Bridgeburners, it is unclear who has killed all of their previous captains.
Sure.
They don't even know. It's very possible that one of the Bridgeburners has killed one of the captains in the past. And they've probably done things to earn it by being arrogant.
Well, it's also entirely possible that every single officer that got sent to Malal City from before was a Claw agent.
Right.
And they knew it because it was just as stinking obvious. But they don't go into that detail. But
no.
And you're saying the Tistadur were going around killing those people off.
It's just a suggestion.
Or sorry,
but we don't know. We
if
don't
there's
know.
machinations involved.
But you know what? We were about to find out something pretty interesting.
The point is, I don't think the Bridgeburners would kill an officer for being arrogant. I think they would kill him for a very specific reason.
If their commanding officer had put them in the tunnels and not let them leave when they knew it was going to collapse, I guarantee you they would be dead. Somebody that survived would have ended the life of that person.
Yeah, that happened last week, though.
Yeah, doesn't matter. There was no captain that ordered it, right? It was Tatian. It's just a possibility.
Point is, I really appreciate this little section that says he knows what he's walking into. He knows he's vulnerable, but he also tells them, like, look, give me a chance.
He's handling it very well.
Yes.
He handled Picker very well as he probably could. He's handling this situation well, probably as well as he could. But guess what? It doesn't matter. He goes outside, goes to look for Whiskey Jack. And then there's a knife in his back. Actually, it's in his front, I believe.
2.
Yeah, 2 of them. So some shadowy figure...
Sorry, let's backtrack a little bit. He leaves the bar, he walks into an alley, and then boom.
I mean, it doesn't take but a few seconds. He thinks he's going to pull his sword, and he's throwing his shoulder to do some kind of blocking maneuver, and then the surprise dagger catches him, and then the other one follows suit, and he's bleeding out on the pavement. And that person just... Okay, so Perrin's lying there, dead for all intents and purposes. Captain of the Bridgeburners, first day on the job. Ba-boom, dead. And a shadowy form shows up, right? Who is it?
It's the 2 guys that created Sorry into the machine she is right now.
I'm sorry. That's what she says. Nevertheless, no, I think that's only half correct, Yule.
Oh, is there only one of them?
Only one of them, because the other one is a little girl. Perrin recognizes the voice of a child or a little girl as his attacker, and he recognizes the accent, I believe, as Khanese.
Dalhanese.
The other one is Dalhan, right?
Okay.
So there's 2 people. He recognizes the accents of both of them. One of them's a little kid or a girl. and the other one is the
Which was
Dalhan.
his killer.
His killer is sorry.
Yes.
Not sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Cotillion.
And then it says the thin voice. So I'm assuming it's the thin man, which is not.
Hold on.
And,
I have this written down because it always confuses me too.
Yeah, I literally had to like write down who was talking because he doesn't do a good job of telling you who's talking.
He does a very good job of keeping us in the dark, but he obviously knows, and he's giving us hints. He says the thin voice, and previously he's referred to the same character as having a reed thin voice.
Amanus.
Yeah, it's Amanus. Exactly. Okay, so there's a conversation going on.
No, the other one's there too, though.
No.
Yeah, because listen.
No, I know. You'll trust me. I know what you're going to tell me, but it is a possession.
I understand what you're saying.
Oh, I get it. And he does imply here, that's right, that the second voice, essentially Cotillion, is the girl voice, but in a Connie's accent. And that's where everything started.
The girl is Connie's.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a direct possession. Cotillion has possession of sorry.
But he doesn't show up.
Well, he's there.
Yeah.
Because he's using Sari's body to do the killing.
I see.
But it's Amanus or Shadow Throne who has showed up and says that was pretty sloppy.
Okay, yeah.
And now I got to go clean up the mess. And their little conversation is making a suggestion that this game is super complicated. They have realized that they have stumbled into something bigger than they thought that the game is a bigger game than they suspected.
They were just playing this game to get back at Lacine, right?
Yes.
But it turns out there's lots of other people involved.
Yes. And Perrin is conscious through this entire thing, even though he should be dead.
Well, he's hearing it.
He's
not quite dead.
He's conscious. If he's hearing, he's conscious.
It's seeping in.
Just like his blood is sleeping out.
Okay, I understand this. I see what you're saying. Okay. So Cotillion is talking through her. He is acting her body out.
Yes.
Amanus shows up. Yep. And they say, we've stumbled into a really different game than we thought.
Yeah.
And they're all like, let's just remember, we're here to get Lacine. Let's keep the eye on the prize.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's pretty much how this chapter ends, with Perrin bleeding to death.
I know. Well, they do add it. They say, well, let's be specific. Amanus giggles, right? Because he's insane. He said someone or something, I should say, has entered our warren uninvited, and my hounds hunt it. Yeah. That's a very specific point because he came all the way here essentially to tell his buddy that.
I see.
Right? And
we're going to find out later what that is.
And his buddy says, don't get distracted, Amanus. Lacine remains our target, and the collapse of the empire she rules but never earned. So they don't want to just take her down. They want the entire empire to collapse. And that's the first time I picked up on that, is it's not just Lacine. It's also the collapse of the empire.
Kellenved and Dancer are infecting it a little bit too, right?
All right. So are we all in agreement now that it's patently obvious that we're dealing with the same people?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we?
I thought we were, but
so
sometimes it's a little funky.
Let's lay it out then, because you guys didn't want to do it last time.
No, we're here to explain stuff to people that took us 5 readings to figure out.
All right, but that's fair. So let's do it right now. Do it right now. So who is the Emperor Kellenved? Is also Amanus, and he is also Shadow Throne.
Yeah.
Cotillion is the rope, has possession of Sari,
and is also Dancer.
Okay.
So it was Kellenved and Dancer were their mortal people that were a pair that ruled the empire. One of whom was an assassin of great renown, and the other one was a mad emperor. They were murdered by Lacine, or under her orders, and they became Shadow Throne and Cotillion. Or is it Shadow Throne and the Rope?
Became Shadow Throne and the Rope.
So I don't know why they're taking on the names of Cotillion and Amanus.
Because there are names, and then there are names, remember?
I do remember, but I don't know the significance. It changes nothing for me because I don't know the significance of the names of Amanus and Cotillion.
Right. But they did take them on, and then they even implied that they couldn't let the Fisher girl. They couldn't let the Fisher girl live because she had heard their names, Amonis and Cotillion, which hadn't, in my opinion, had not existed before, so they made them up. But maybe other gods know those names.
Somebody would have known. They would have figured it out. They knew that much. And it was the Mad Emperor, Amonis, who let the name slip, which forced Cotillion's hand to possess Sari.
Possess the Fisher girl who became Sari.
So it's a big mess with name. It's worse than a Russian novel because it's never, ever shown, right? It's never given to us straight. Whereas in a Russian novel, they'll eventually give it to you straight.
Yeah, you literally have to figure this stuff out.
But there it is. It's out in the open. It's not a spoiler because by now you should have figured it out. And if you hadn't, you weren't reading carefully.
I'm sorry. You weren't reading it 3 times carefully.
Yes. Okay. Touche.
The last thing about chapter 3 is that Parents hears the coin spinning.
He does.
Yes. So to ATN script, we disagreed slightly on whether or not what was going on or he was unconscious or conscious. Do you think that Opan kept him conscious enough to hear that conversation? Right? And to hear the spinning coin? Because they said it was one kill shot. The first one was a kill shot. The first blade was a kill shot. The second blade...
Instant kill shot. The second one's slower, but it was still inevitable. Here lies Gano's Perrin and the end of Chapter 3. Join us next time for Chapter 4. Until then, let us know if you liked what we're doing in all of the ways that are typical of this type of medium, and keep reading. This is Science Fiction and Fantasy Read Along. Thanks for listening.